Hi everyone, welcome back to If My Heart Had Wings, Kotori's Route, Episode 3. So, Kotori managed to reject the love letter, but she gave a very interesting reason, the fact that she's in love with the sky, and that's a very interesting / strange response, and it got to the point where Aoi and Ageha were laughing at Kotori. So Kotori is pretty much upset, and it looks like Aoi was trying to make up to Kotori when he tried to approach her while she's sunbathing in some flotation device at the lake. And it looks like Kotori's still upset with Aoi, and I think Ageha's trying to get Kotori to make up to Aoi. So let's see how that fares. So Ageha says,
もういい加減許してやりなさい。なんでよ。
So why?
周りが気を使うからよ。つうか、あんたもう本当は怒ってないんでしょ？意地張ってるうちに仲直りするタイミングを見失っちゃってるだけでしょ？
That's true.
そんなことはないわ。私の心は今現在も冬眠から目覚めたクマのように荒ぶっているわ。
嘘つけ。昼間葵から声かけられて嬉しそうに顔を赤くしてたくせに。
So I do see that you're blushing, and that's a sign.
違うもん。赤くなんてしてないもん。
No, I wasn't doing that.
そんなに赤かった？
葵は優しいしおおらかなとこあるからいいけど、普通だったらそろそろ呆れられてる頃よ。
So the problem is that, well, Kotori, you have a really bad attitude, and you're just lucky that it's Aoi who will forgive you, but for someone else, they probably won't.
そうなの？嫌われちゃうかな、葵くんに。
And that gets Kotori to think otherwise.
かもね。好きなんでしょ、葵のこと。
わかんないよ、そんなの。
Well, I don't know.
なんでさ、自分の気持ちじゃない。
だってそんなこと今まで想像もしたことなかったから。
Okay.
1年も一緒に暮らしてて？
Well, I don't think anyone would feel that way.
私ね、宮田くんからラブレターもらってすっごく嬉しかったの。
そうなの？宮田のこと知らなかったんじゃなかったっけ？
Well, I think it's just, well, I got a love letter, so that's enough for me.
顔も見たことなかったわ。でも嬉しかったの。
And we did see in episode 2 that this other person isn't really that bad. And it looks like he took the rejection very well, even when Kotori gave a really bizarre response.
だって私のこと好きって言ってくれたのよ。私こんなだから自分がまた誰かの恋愛対象になれるなんて思ってもみなかった。だからラブレターもらってびっくりしたし、すごく嬉しかった。
小鳥、
私のこと女の子として見てくれる人なんてもう一生現れないって思ってたから。
Okay, so he saw me as a lady.
誰かを好きになんてならないようにしてたと。
Well, that's still true.
でもいたんだよね。
Okay, so, well, I already have someone in mind, so...
そりゃいるよ。だって小鳥かわいいよ。
But then again, you acted cute, so...
でもこんなだし、性格だって歪んでるし。
歪んでないって。ちょっと変なとこもかわいいよ。
But you know, even though you're quite weird, you're cute still, so...
葵くんはアゲハのこと好きなんでしょ？
Okay.
はい？なんで？
だって告白したって。
だから、それは昔の話だって。小さい頃よ。
But you know that's past.
でも、
それに、大事なのは自分の気持ちでしょ？小鳥が誰を好きなのか。
このラブレター、今も毎日読んでるの。
And for some reason, Kotori's still reading the love letter.
これくれたのが葵くんだったらなって思いながら。
小鳥、自分から告白するって手もあるんだよ。
But maybe you can be first and tell Aoi.
ダメよそんなの。
But that's too hard.
私なんかに好きになられてもきっと迷惑だもん。私なんて足手まといになるだけよ。
Okay?
あんたね、葵が本気でそんなこと考えるやつだって思ってるわけ？
No, says Kotori.
でも無理、言えない。もし振られたら一生立ち直れない。それならこのままずっと仲のいい友達でいてほしい。
まあ、その気持ちはわからなくもないかな。おはよう。
So, in typical nature, it is hard for Kotori to be the first to tell Aoi how she feels. And I'm sure the same is true for Aoi. But anyways, it's now raining outside and Ageha's like, good morning, on a dark morning. Oh, good morning, Ageha. So where's Kotori?
まだ寝てる。昨日遅かったからね。
Okay. So yesterday, after swimming in the lake, Ageha has spent the night in Kotori's room. And they were excited about having a pajama party, and I heard their voices all night. So I'm sure he heard something, but it's more like just murmurs, like and not actual words. So it'll probably give Kotori the confidence that I didn't hear what Kotori was saying.
降ってきちゃったね。
Yeah, it's supposed to continue for a while. Ageha takes some milk from the fridge and pours it into a cup.
もう怒ってないみたいよ。いや、なんか聞きたそうにしてるから。
Okay. Well, I'm glad.
葵ってさ、小鳥のこと好きなんだよね。
So, back to you. How do you feel about Kotori? She said it so frankly that it took me a moment to process the question. Yeah, I do. I answered so unhappily, partly because I was bashful, and partly because it was frustrating to be asked so plainly, like it was nothing.
言っちゃえば好きだって。
So if it is true, then why don't you go tell her? Well, it's not that easy. So we have the soaring club, and I'm in charge of the dorms, and there are her feelings too. Well, I'm sure the soaring club and the dorm mother thing, that doesn't really tie into his problem to confess to Kotori.
小鳥の気持ち、もう大体わかってるでしょ。
Ageha said this while drinking her milk. Well, I have no idea. About all I know is that she doesn't hate me. And even if she says she likes me, it can be so many different things. That's true. Well, besides, if I said something and it didn't work, I might make her feel cornered.
追い詰める？
So what do you mean by cornered? So she relies on me, but when I think about things getting awkward... So what do you think about Aoi? Ageha sounded like she was in a bad mood.
ずいぶんな思い上がりだね。小鳥はあんたがいなくたってきっと平気だと思うよ。立派にやってくよ。サポートが必要なら私がする。それに
So I do help her, and there's that.
私からするとあんたの言い分はのろけにしか聞こえないわ。
Wait, what do you mean fondness?
小鳥に依存されて幸せみたいな。
So you do appreciate that Kotori depends on you. Well, you're wrong.
まあいいわ。私が口出すことじゃないし。どうぞお好きになさってください。
And what a remark for her to make like that. Well, I'll do what I want. And in any case, nothing will come from continuing or like this. I have to do something about this feeling, and fast.
ごめんください。
So what is Aoi going to do to Kotori? It looks like Kotori's sister's here, so hello. Excuse me. Oh, hello, Hibari.
こんにちは、水瀬さん。
So Hibari had come in the rain just after noon. And before, Hibari had come once a week, but lately she has been coming less. It was her first visit since summer break had started. Well, I haven't seen you in a while.
仕事が忙しかったんです。それに近頃は小鳥ちゃんも楽しそうで安心して見ていられるようになったので。
So I don't have much worries about Kotori recently because, well, one, I'm at work, and two, it looks like Kotori's having so much fun and she's enjoying her stay here, so...
本当は毎日来たいんですけどね。
Well, I'm not sure if Kotori's going to be happy with that. So her voice had an unhappy tune. Knowing her, she may actually come every day. And I'm sure Kotori isn't going to appreciate that, given that Hibari's going to go all over Kotori to make sure she does her usual morning routine. And I do remember that one part where Kotori doesn't want Hibari to sleep with her because Hibari's going to breathe all over Kotori, and you know that. But it's rare for you to come at this time. So she usually comes at night. Well, I'm sure Hibari has time in the morning now.
今日は小鳥ちゃんと大事な話があってきたんです。
So Hibari took a serious facial expression and spoke firmly.
いやよ。
So what is Hibari trying to do to Kotori? So Kotori's like, no.
お願いよ、小鳥ちゃん。
Please?
嫌ったら嫌。絶対に帰らない。
No, I'm not going home.
お盆の間だけでいいの。お父さんもお母さんも小鳥ちゃんに会いたがってるわ。
So you know the Obon Festival, that's a very important event. It's like one of those summer holidays. And it's best if we spend this festival time together as a family. So, please come home.
お正月に帰ったんだからそれで十分でしょ。
Well, I already did for the New Year's, so that should be enough.
日帰りであっちにいたのほんのちょっぴりだったじゃない。
But you weren't home for that long, so it didn't really felt like you came home.
あれで精一杯です。まだ気にしてるの？あのこと。
So what is Kotori bothered by?
もう昔のことよ。二人とも今は反省してるし。だからね。
So you know, your parents feel bad about you leaving them, so maybe you should go back and reconcile.
絶 全然昔のことじゃない。私にとっては昨日のことよ。
But it really feels like it's recent, so not really from many years ago.
小鳥ちゃん。わかったでしょ。もう出てって。いいえ、出て行きません。今日は何としてでも小鳥ちゃんに帰るって約束してもらいます。
Well, I'll make sure you come home.
どんなに粘っても絶対に帰らないんですからね。ずっとこのままでいるつもりなの？そうよ。じゃあ学校を卒業した後はどうするの？一人で暮らしていくの？
Okay, so Hibari's trying to come up with really serious thoughts to convince Kotori to come home. It's like, so are you gonna be like this forever? So is this what you're gonna be after you graduate? Are you gonna be all alone?
小鳥ちゃん、逃げてちゃダメよ。辛いのはわかるけど。ハット。
Okay, so what is Kotori going to do now?
What?
Yes, says Hat.
アタック。
What? Okay, so Kotori's going to use Hat to fend off Hibari.
クワックワッ。
Okay, so here you see Hat attacking Hibari, trying to get Hibari out of Kotori's room.
クワックワックワー。クワ
And it looks like Hat was able to scare Hibari out of Kotori's room, and then Kotori just slammed the door right behind Hat. And, well, either way, it's a really bad thing to do to your sister. And Hat is still attacking Hibari. So driven away by Hat, Hibari ran from Kotori's room. Wait, cut it down. Okay, Hat, just calm down.
クワクワ。
Okay, well, I already did my job, so. Are you okay, Hibari?
大丈夫です。
I'm okay.
あかんべー。
Okay, so Kotori sticks her tongue out, like, well, there you go, Hibari. Out of my room. So after getting Hat back, Kotori shuts the door and locks it. Ah, what's with her?
いいの。私が言い過ぎちゃったんです。
Well, I think I said those words incorrectly, so I shouldn't have brought up the fact that Kotori's going to be all alone after she graduates. Because that kind of triggers her. So what on earth happened just now? It seemed like you were fighting over whether she would go home. And I asked while preparing tea.
私、今年こそは小鳥ちゃんを家に連れて帰ろうと、そう心に決めてきたんです。
Well, I'm going to take Kotori home no matter what. So what do you mean by take her home?
お盆の間だけですよ。ずっとってことじゃないです。
No, I mean that this is like an important time, so the festival, and it's best to spend this time together. And I do remember the Obon Festival from Adventure of a Lifetime. So they kind of decorated all these places up, and you had all these stalls, places to eat. And for Adventure of a Lifetime, the big hot item was the shark burger. And it was so popular that there was a huge line. And after the shark burger sold out, that's when the crowd dispersed. And on top of that, we got fireworks at the end. But I'm sure in this visual novel, it's not going to be as exquisite as that, or Adventure of a Lifetime. So hearing that, I gave a sigh of relief.
でも、ダメでした。
But I couldn't do it. So why won't she go home? Are things not going well with her family? I felt it might be a rude question to ask, but I've been wondering, so I went ahead and just asked her anyways. So with a grave look on her face, Hibari stared at the glass of barley tea on which droplets of water had collected.
小鳥ちゃんの足の怪我のこと何か聞いていますか?
Yeah, well, just a little bit. If I remember correctly, it was something about an accident during a family trip.
あれは今からもう4年も前になります。楽しい家族旅行があの事故のせいで。
So we were a happy family back then, but then this accident broke us apart.
それまではどこにでもいる幸せな家族でした。両親の仲も良くて、小鳥ちゃんのような可愛い娘もいて、きっと誰もが羨むような平凡で幸せな家庭。けど、あの事故が全てを変えてしまったんです。
Well, you never know what will happen in life. That's true. So I'm sure nobody in the Hibari family knew about that Kotori was going to get into an accident. And there are times when you think about you're living in an ordinary life and then suddenly, without warning, something is taken from you. So just like what happened with me. But what was taken from the Hibari family was something beyond comparison with my situation. So for Aoi, it was the bicycle accident. So Aoi was this star bicyclist or cycling. Wait, so I think he was a star cyclist, and he went to a sports school for that. But then he got into an accident. He had to go to the hospital, and even though he can walk, unlike Kotori, he can't do extreme competitive sports anymore. So he had to give up his dreams of being this champion cyclist, and he had to go to a school that's less emphasized on sports and more emphasized on other topics like engineering and science. Well, I always thought it was strange, but why is Kotori living in a dorm? So I wonder how far her house is from the dorm. So usually if someone has disability, don't they live with their family? That's true. And otherwise, they might enter a facility with a caregiver.
小鳥ちゃんが事故に遭った後、家族は一変しました。
So I think it makes sense because if you remember, when Aoi first met Kotori, she was stranded. Her wheelchair had a flat, and she was just pretty much on Windmill Hill trying to call for help. And her cell phone was in the dormitory. And if it wasn't for Aoi, Kotori would have been stranded for much longer, and we wouldn't know what happens next.
両親は事故の責任をめぐって互いを責め、動かなくなった小鳥ちゃんの足を見て毎日泣いていました。小鳥ちゃんね、バレーボールの選手だったんですよ。背はあまり高くなかったけれど、すごいジャンプ力で本当にかっこよかったの。
So before Kotori had the injury, she was like a star athlete as well, so she played volleyball really well. And for Aoi, it would be hard to imagine what Kotori was like before she broke her legs.
だから余計に辛かったんでしょうね。
And I'm sure it's really difficult for the family to see how much Kotori has to give up. But that's terrible. It's harder for Kotori than anyone else. Yeah, Hibari said, nodding deeply.
父も母も小鳥ちゃんのことを心から愛してたわ。だから小鳥ちゃんの前ではなるべく見せないようにはしてて。けど、どんなに隠してても分かっちゃうのよね。家族ですもの。
You know, the parents still love Kotori despite all of those setbacks.
小鳥ちゃんはそれを自分のせいだと思っていつの間にか自分を責めるようになっていたんです。
And now the guilt upon oneself. So because of that, Kotori is... Hibari nodded.
いたたまれなくなって家を出たんだと思うの。小鳥ちゃんが出て行ってから家の中は時間が止まったみたいになってる。あの頃の事故の後のまま。
So since I wasn't there, I can only imagine this. So if I lost Kotori, I would be tortured by suffering that felt like being torn apart. But it was the hardest on Kotori. I'm positive that her mom and dad both understood that and were trying their best to be considerate. But even so, it's not possible to bury all of that sadness and continue smiling. That's true. I'm sure that sadness is too much for one person to bear. To an unbelievable degree.
私は小鳥ちゃんはこのトビウオ層に来てよかったって思ってるんです。
But then again, I'm glad that Kotori is able to find happiness here.
特に水瀬さんと出会ってからあの子は変わったわ。
And I think you were the big game changer for Kotori.
よく笑うようになったし、お友達も増えて毎日楽しそう。まるで少しずつ昔の小鳥ちゃんに戻っていくみたい。
Well, if that's the case, it makes me happy too. If I could ease the sadness of Kotori and her family, even by just a little bit, I would do anything.
今の小鳥ちゃんを見ればお父さんもお母さんも安心してまた昔のように笑えるかもしれない。お正月に帰った時は本当に嬉しそうで久しぶりに家の中が明るくなったんですよ。
Okay? So seeing Hibari's sweet smile at saying this, I felt a pain like my chest was being squeezed. And if you remember, the one little problem that Hibari mentioned was that, well, Kotori only stayed for a little bit. So it would be better if she could stay with the family for a long period of time. Okay, so what's next? Okay, so it looks like I was going to talk to Kotori, so he knocks on her door. No reply. Kotori, I know you're in there, so open the door already. I heard the sound of the door being unlocked. Okay, I'm going in.
ひばり姉に頼まれてきたの？
So, is the only reason you come in here is because Hibari said so? No, look, so what you did earlier was really horrible, so you used Hat to scare off that, or your sister.
あんた、ちょっと脅かしただけだもん。ねえ、ハット。
Well, I'm sure it's more than just scaring her.
ガガ。
Well, I guess Hat had just rustled about and driven Hibari off. He hadn't even pecked at her. But even then, a weak girl may even faint if being attacked by a huge bird like this.
さっきはよくやったわ、ハット。あんたは私のボディーガードよ。
And that's nothing to celebrate about.
わあ。
Okay, says Hat. Hat seemed happy to be praised by Kotori. True. I took out a cucumber I had been hiding and waved it in front of Hat. Stay calm for a little bit, okay?
ガー。
Okay.
何すんのよ。
Well, I can't have Hat set anyone on anyone else, so.
ダメよ、ハット。そんなの食べちゃう。
Hey, don't fall for that bait. Too late. Hat's fully concentrating on eating cucumbers, his favorite food, and doesn't seem to hear his partner's voice.
所詮はアヒルか。
So, why won't you go home? Says Aoi.
前も言ったでしょ。今が大事な時なんだから、私たちにとって。
Well, it'll be fine if you aren't here during Obon or the Obon Festival.
何よそれ。私なんていてもいなくても一緒って言いたいの？
Well, just during the Obon Festival. It was clear that Kotori was upset. Well, I heard about the situation from Hibari. I understand, so your pain. But you know, running away won't solve anything, will it?
逃げてなんかない。
Well, she kind of is, because she's refusing to go home to see her parents and be as a family. Well, you don't hate your mom and dad, don't you? I mean, when you are talking about quitting school before, you said that you wanted to reassure your dad. Kotori remained in sullen silence. Well, you're actually worried about your family, right?
そりゃ少しくらいはしてるけど。
So then it wouldn't hurt to go back just for a bit, wouldn't it? So during the Obon Festival, while you aren't here, the others and I can cover for you. So if you're worried about the progress of the glider, you don't have to worry because we'll be working on it while you're gone.
帰らないって言ってるでしょ。もうほっといてよ。
Well, I'm not gonna go home still. Kotori?
なんでそんなこと言うの？葵くんにはそんなこと言われたくない。
And it hurts to hear this message from you, Aoi-kun.
これは私のうちのことよ。あなたには関係ないんだから、余計な口出ししないで。
So this is our family problem, so you stay out of it. So hearing Kotori's tearing yelling, who had been eating the cucumber reflexively lifted his head. I'm sorry. Well, I went too far.
葵くん。
So you're completely right. This is not something I should be pushing my head into. I forced a smile when I said it, but I might have felt a little bit lonely.
そうよ。あんたには関係ないんだもん。
Well, I'm sorry. Anyone would have gotten angry, you know. So after saying that, I left Kotori's room. Okay, so it's now raining outside, and even though Kotori mentions that this is a family problem and that Aoi should not intervene, it's supposed to be the perfect opportunity for Aoi to come and help Kotori and kind of understand why Kotori has a problem going home to her parents. So anyways, the rain continued to drizzle for several days as though if it were clinging on. And after that, things somehow got awkward between Kotori and me, and we stopped talking face to face. And it wasn't that we were angry or hated each other. That's true. We just didn't know how to interact.
なんか空気が重いよね。
And the other people can see that something isn't right.
あの二人がずっとあの調子だものね。黙々と働く分、作業効率はむしろアップしてるんだけどな。
Okay?
でももう 姉さんが窒息寸前よ。
息苦しくて辛いです。
だよね。しかしなんとかしようにもな。
So I wonder what's going on between Ageha, Asa, and Yoru. So it's like, well, we're working efficiently, getting things done, but it's kind of getting tiring for us.
その後どうなの？葵とは口聞いた？
And I think they're also worried about why Aoi and Kotori are being silent for the whole time.
昨日の夕飯の時、お好み焼きにマヨネーズをかけるかどうか聞かれたっきり。
I don't think that was the problem.
そりゃ重症だわね。
And Ageha can see that something isn't right. So it's not about how dinner was made.
あの葵がそこまで落ち込むとはね。
And for Ageha's like, well, I know Aoi very well, and I know that this is not usual for him.
どうしよう、嫌われちゃったのかな。
さあ、それはなんとも。
Well, I can't really say.
いやよ、そんなの。葵くんに嫌われたくないよ。
やっぱあの一言が効いたんじゃないかな。
Well, I didn't want to hear about it from you, Aoi-kun.
あいつあんたの保護者ぶってたからショックだったんじゃない？
Okay, so Kotori's kind of upset that, well, I said really bad words, harsh words to Aoi-kun, and I told him to stay out of my little problem, and I feel that he's upset because of that. And I'm kind of worried because it may get him to hate me.
あれはつい言っちゃっただけで、本当の気持ちじゃないもん。
And I said it.
じゃあそう伝えれば？それでまた元通りだと思うよ。
So maybe you can try talking to him more and see if you can try again to get closer to him.
そうかな。
But can I do it?
それで葵はなんて言ったんだっけ？
立ち入ったこと言って悪かったって。
まあ他人の家の事情に口出すのも変だよね。
そんなことない。葵くんには出されてもいい。
そう思うんなら本心をちゃんと伝えなって。へたれてても状況は変わんないよ。
So I think the big problem was that Kotori got so much attention because she used hat to push Hibari out of her room. And using that kind of violence is enough to get anyone's attention.
でももう嫌われちゃってるもん、きっと。今さら何言ってんだとか思われちゃうよ。
And when Kotori had to, or like Aoi went to Kotori's like, what's wrong? Kotori just pushed him away.
ずぶ濡れ
Okay, so for some reason Amane's here.
だ。あまね先輩。
あまねちゃん。
いやー君たち悪いが拭くものを持っていないか？
小鳥先輩と仲直りしてください。
So on the other side, we see that Asa and maybe Yoru is trying to talk to Aoi and try to get him to make up with Kotori.
姉さんが窒息する前にね。
Well, it's not that easy. I'm sure it's not that easy. Everyone knows. I was being pressed by the Kazata sisters at the end of the dock. Well, I'm sorry I made things so awkward, but you know, they were telling me to make up with Kotori, but it wasn't like we were fighting. So what can I do?
私嫌です。小鳥先輩と葵先輩が仲良くないなんて。
ボタンを掛け違えたままにしてるような気持ち悪さがあるわね。
前みたいに仲良くしましょうよ。ねえ先輩。
So for us, it's like, well, the environment's kind of weird when you two are like that. So please make up to Kotori and make it all normal again. So Asa grabs my arm and shakes it like she's pleading. Kotori and I had gotten along well. Almost too well. And that's why I intruded on her family's business so bluntly, like I knew everything. Well, I really did hurt her. For instance, the time I tried to stop Kotori from quitting school, I didn't hold anything back. And I thought she hated me for it, to be honest. Well, Kotori was upset, and she tried everything she could to find that withdrawal letter. But then again, Kotori on her own found some good reason to stay at the school. So I only did help a little bit, but it was Kotori herself who changed her mind. Well, I felt that even if she hated me for it, if new possibilities occurred to her, it would be worth it. So I wonder what's going to change Kotori's mind this time. Well, I was able to do it because we just met. Well, I'm not sure if it was we just met, because they've been together for a little bit. After I found that withdrawal letter. But the issue recently is different. And I gotten comfortable with our friendship and intruded into an area she was uncomfortable with. Well, I don't want to hear it from you, Aioi-kun. Honestly, that was a shock to hear. So remembering that makes my heart sink even now. And thanks to that, I wasn't sure how to talk to her. I just felt like a vague sense of distance. And of course, I didn't want to leave things like this. So when Kotori calms down a bit, I'll apologize to her again. And there was something else I had to tell her.
絶対ですよ。
So, promise me that you'll make up to Kotori? Okay, I'll promise. And the problem is that I know Kotori isn't asking for an apology. So what should I do? At the right time, we see Kotori and Ageha from the little control room or lounge. So from the back.
Yeah.
Oh, Amane!
久しぶりだな、葵くん。
So Amane entered in her usual carefree fashion. It was that first time in a while that she come here.
お、だいぶできたな。
Okay, so Amane gets to see the progress of the glider for the first time. So I'm sure that the last time Amane met them was when she was taken toward this place, and that was when they were begging Amane to be their club advisor and allow the soaring circle to be upgraded to club status. And obviously that time the glider is not even built. Or they do have a glider, the old version, but it has 0 modifications yet. So she says it while looking at the airframe, which has drawn close to completion. So all we have to do is paint and the details.
それはいい。スケジュール的にも余裕がありそうだな。みんな、集まってくれ。
Okay, so meeting. Saying things with deep meaning, Amane gathers everyone. So Kotori noticed me and awkwardly averted her gaze. Or her glance. So Amane began talking, not noticing the strange atmosphere. Well, I'm sure she's too busy to notice it.
顧問を引き受けたのにあんまり顔を出せなくて申し訳ない。
Well, first of all, I'm sorry that I didn't come here earlier.
大人だからな。忙しいんだ。いえいえ、顧問をやってもらってるだけで十分ですよ。
But at least you're still the advisor, so that helps. Amane ignores or Ageha ignores the bragging about being an adult girl and replies.
それでな、少しでも役に立てればと思ってこんなものを作ってきたんだ。
So Amane begins to remove a large sheet of paper from a long, thin tube.
濡れてる。隙間から水が入ってしまったぞ。
And it's not wrapped very well, so when it was raining hard outside, water got in.
何なんですかそれ。
So Ageha asked, feeling rushed by somehow pitiful atmosphere.
これはな、小鳥へのプレゼントだ。
So it's a present.
私？
So Kotori's days taken by surprise.
そこの事務所の PC でブックマークを見つけてな。
So I found this after looking on one of the computers.
それで書いてみたんだ。
So saying that, she opened the sheet and it looked like some kind of blueprint. But it was not a glider. For a moment, even Ageha didn't know what it was.
何ですかこれ。コックピットみたいですけど。
So a cockpit?
だからそこの PC にあっただろ。海外製のコックピットの。
Wait. Okay, so if you remember from the last episode, I was browsing the computer and Ageha thought he was looking at porn, but it turns out he was looking at some cockpit that could be perfect for Kotori, except for the fact that it's made in Germany and it costs a lot of money, and plus all the importation restrictions. And it looks like Amane caught onto it. And let's see what her blueprint is. So everyone's surprised by the sudden outburst.
びっくりした。
何よいきなり。
So why are you all excited, Aoi or senpai? Wait a minute. So this is the cockpit for people with disabilities. So Kotori, who raised her head after hearing my words, peered at the blueprint.
先輩が見たのってあのドイツのグライダー製作会社のサイトですか？こないだ葵が見つけた。
There you go. So isn't this the one that Aoi looked at?
そうそう。輸入しようとするといろいろ面倒そうだろ。
Yep. And you do remember about the importation issues, right?
だったら自分たちで作ってしまえばいいんじゃないかと思ってな。
And if we can't buy it, why not we make it ourselves? That makes sense. And it's just like the big telescope in A Sky Full of Stars. So if you remember from the very beginning, around episode 7 or 8, where Hime wanted to buy a brand new telescope, a big one, and it's like a way for every school, so the 6 schools, to be on the same ground level. But the telescope cost so much money that 2 clubs opted out of it. And obviously for Orihime, she doesn't understand what it's like to be suffering from a tight budget. Well, it's because she's rich, and... But then again, or like later in the series, we see that Hikari, Sai, and Akito were able to come up with some solution to have a big telescope without the price, and it's to build their own. Well, you can go watch if it's a couple of stars, the comment in Divergence Roots if you're interested.
最初からこうしてればよかったんだな。
Well, I'm sure in the past, Amai didn't consider that Kotori would possibly be flying this thing.
話がよく見えないんだけど。
これは君のための。
So this is for you. So if you can have this, you'll be able to fly. I cut off Amane, turned to Kotori, and spoke enthusiastically. You can fly with the glider with your own hands, so without the necessity for rudder pedals, you can operate everything by hand, and that makes you fit, or like you can fly or be suitable for flying. So how about it? Are you thrilled? Okay. So Kotori had made a blank look on her face, and seeing her expression, I remember that we hadn't been talking for several days. So I realized I had gotten a little too happy and felt embarrassed. But then the happiness that bubbled up after that could not be controlled.
小鳥、もっと喜びだよ。あんたが自分で操縦できるってことだよ。
Come on, so aren't you supposed to be happy? Because with this, it means that you can fly in the glider. You can be one of the pilots now.
そうなの?
Really? Kotori still didn't seem to understand. She was vacantly staring at the blueprint.
ラダーをペダルじゃなく手で操作できるようになってる。コックピットを改造する必要は出てくるが。
There it goes. Like, with this, there will no longer be a need for rudder pedals, and we can modify it so that all those foot movements can be controlled by your hands.
このくらい大したことないですよ。
And it won't be hard to do, says Ageha.
葵くんが探してくれてたの?
Yeah, so I thought you'd probably want to fly by yourself, so, But I never thought that Manor would draw up a blueprint. So, how does Kotori respond? For a while, Kotori stared in amazement, not at the blueprint, but at me.
ありがとう、あまねちゃん。
And suddenly, Kotori reversed the wheelchair.
小鳥先輩、ちょっとトイレ。
So I think Kotori's so excited that she needs to find a place to let it all out. Or it's just so complicated in thought.
あんまり嬉しそうじゃなかったぞ。
Well, I think that's not true. I wonder if doing this was intruding too.
さあ、そんなことないんじゃない?
Okay, so I wonder what Kotori's doing in the PC, the lounge room, and such. So I'm going to go ahead and stop here for this episode. But anyways, I'm sure the reason why Kotori is here is because she's just way too happy. She can't really express it in any way. The fact that Aoi was considering her as he was looking for some cockpit that will allow Kotori to fly the glider despite her disability in the legs. And I'm sure this is a super ultra exclusive present that Kotori could never dream of. And it's quite interesting that Amane was able to pick it up. Even though I just browsed it for a little bit and it's like, well, it's from Germany, it's too expensive. And Amane just found in the bookmark, and then she was able to turn this idea into a reality. It's like, well, if we can't buy from Germany, it's too much money, and the importation issues, we can just build one that kind of resembles what we see in the catalog. So, obviously, that's going to translate to they'll build a cockpit that will be suitable for Kotori. And we'll see if this is going to help Aoi make up to Kotori after Kotori said a really harsh statement to Aoi last night about the family situation. And with that in mind, I'll see you in next episode.